Do I believe in UFOs or extraterrestrial visitors? I'm not authorized to answer that question. Where shall I begin? UFO. First, remember what the U stands for in UFO. Now, there's a fascinating frailty of the human mind that psychologists know all about, and it's called argument from ignorance. And this is how it goes. You ready? Somebody sees lights flashing in the sky. They've never seen it before. They don't understand what it is. They say, a UFO. The U stands for unidentified. So they say, I don't know what it is. It must be aliens from outer space visiting from another planet. Well, if you don't know what it is, that's where your conversation should stop.
So, me and Neil, the rapist Tyson, finally agree on something. If you don't know what it is, that's where the conversation should stop. So maybe he should take his own advice and stop talking about dark matter and gravity. Textbook hypocrite. I'll get back to Cosby later. There's some dudes out there in YouTube land that, in the same breath, call NASA the deceivers and then continue to propagate their lies. I don't know if it's deliberate in all cases. In some cases, I believe it's simply a person who's partially awakened. In other cases, I do believe it's someone who's trying to gain your trust by saying, hey, I'm with you, I don't trust these guys either, but then continues to try and pollute your mind with NASA propaganda. The old shit sandwich with truth bread routine. I always boil things down to first principles. If you know someone to be a pathological liar and that person continues to tell you stories that you couldn't ever verify for yourself, why would you believe anything this person ever says? We don't go into outer space. We simply don't. Satellites are a work of fiction by Arthur C. Clarke. We use undersea cables, also known as the World Wide Web. We use repeater towers to propagate Wi-Fi and cellular signals. Anything extra comes from balloons, blimps, and drones. I don't care if I lose subscribers from this rant. I'm here to tell the truth. And if you want more of it, send me money so I can quit my slave job. Otherwise, you get it when you get it. I recommend you don't wait for me and my crew. Me and the team are going to work through the holiday season to get more truth out. Hopefully, we don't have to neglect our families too much. But when we get days off, we got to take advantage. I got to change the oil on both my hoopties. After that, I'm all yours. Don't get all giddy on me. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, fake space. Listen here, people. There's no place to go. Earth is a realm, not a tiny blue ball cosmic accident. The only way out is through death. Or God must be really, really pleased with you and simply wills you the heck out. Good luck with that. It's all one big test. Every day is a test. Once you understand that Earth is a realm and life is one long test and that it's all temporary as well, that's when you begin your journey on the right foot. Until then, you'll be fumbling around blindly. My best friend sent me a text message the other day. He says, Ion Drive is where it's at. I remember Ion Drive was unveiled when I was barely a teenager, and it still hasn't been applied in this fake space travel thing they're trying to do. I wonder why. But I didn't respond with that. I held back. It almost seems futile to even try and break the spell, but I try anyway. You gotta be subtle. If you push too hard, they simply retract in the wrong direction even further away from you. There's no one way to wake someone up, but first you have to figure out if they're even worth your time and effort. Being that he's my best friend, I consider him a brother, I won't give up. But the problem lies in his perception. He believes I'm the one who's lost and confused. He believes he's trying to save me, bring me back to reality. Nothing is stranger than being pitied by lost sheep. So, what can I do? If I show him bubbles during a spacewalk, the video is fake. If I point out several more bubbles in spacewalk videos, they're all fake. If I show that all satellites in space are CGI, the typical reaction is, so what? If those are CGI, it doesn't mean there aren't real satellites in space. Which brings me to something Joe Rogan said during one of his podcasts. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if a photo or picture is obviously fake, does that mean we did not go to the moon? No, it just means the photo is fake. His words, not mine. Let's again break things down to first principles. Someone comes along and tells me they went to Asgard and showed me a picture of the Rainbow Bridge. Obviously fake. My rational thinking brain would not say, hey, this guy still might be telling the truth even though his only evidence is a fake picture in a rotten piece of wood he calls rainbow rock. It doesn't work that way, Mr. Rogaine. If your evidence is phony, then so is your claim. It's that simple. I'm sure Joe knows this. He's too smart not to. Whenever the subject comes up about the moon landing hoax, he immediately reverts to the same excuses. I'm not qualified, I don't know enough. An obvious cop-out. When it comes to research, any intelligent person can be an expert with enough dedication. We're not talking about brain surgery. Certain things do require a lot more than just reading to reach expert status. I'm not blind to that. So if you want to convince me you did something outrageous and I find out your only evidence is fake, essentially you failed to prove your claim. Only a buffoon or a shill would say, well, that just means the evidence is fake. The claim might still be valid. Sure, try that in a court of law. Which reminds me of something that Neil the Ass Tyson said. He said, eyewitness testimony is the weakest form of evidence there is. You know what pisses me off? This guy says this in front of a huge crowd and nobody says anything about it.
We know, not only from research in psychology, but simple empirical evidence in the history of science, that the lowest form of evidence that exists in this world is eyewitness testimony.
What do we humans have beside our senses? How else can we perceive the world around us? If you have such a low opinion of your senses, Neil, then just give them up. It won't be a far cry from what you're doing with them now. This guy does nothing but talk, and when he talks, he does nothing but degrade everyone. The credibility of eyewitness testimony depends on the integrity of the witness. Not one person interjected with that. This man has done nothing to contribute to this thing they call science. Not a single invention, discovery, or theory from this man. So what is he besides a mascot? I really have to get past my urge to pummel this guy to even talk about him in a coherent fashion. Let's keep watching as I grind my teeth.
Which is scary because that's some of the highest form of evidence in the court of law. But we know from second grade. Where's my guy from second grade? Get up to the microphone for a minute. Grab the microphone. Grab the microphone. In your classes, have you done the famous experiment where you play telephone and you line up all your kids in class and one person starts with a story and then you hear it and you repeat it to the next person and the next person? Have you done that in class yet?
Yes.
You've done that experiment? Because what happens by the time you get to the last person and they retell the story? What happens?
It's like completely different.
It's completely different. Completely different, okay? Because the conveyance of information was relying on eyewitness testimony, which in that case is ear witness testimony. And so, thank you. So we know that. So he knows it. He's in second grade. All right. So, actually he should be in 12th grade as we've established. So now, it wouldn't matter if you saw a flying saucer.
So he bullies a second grader and like a buffoon goes from eyewitness to ear witness. Okay, whatever. Can someone please stand up and tell Neil that scientists, real scientists, Don't pass along information like second graders playing telephone. How does he get away with it? There's this invention called the pencil, another similar invention called the pen. We use these instruments to record information, Neil. You should try it sometime. But I guess Neil the ass wouldn't know about that because he's never conducted an experiment in his entire career. All he does is tell people they're as dumb as second graders and they clap for him. Let's keep suffering, shall we?
In science, even if you have something less controversial than a flying saucer, if you come into my lab and you say, you got to believe me, I saw it, and you're one of my fellow scientists, I say, go back, go home. Go back until you have some other kind of evidence that's not just you saw it. Okay? Because human perception system is rife with all ways of getting it wrong. Okay? But we don't like thinking of ourselves that way. We have high opinions of our human biology when in fact we should not. I'll give you an example of how it reveals itself. We've all bought and enjoyed books called Optical Illusions, right? Well, we all love optical illusions, but that's not what they should call the book. They should call them brain failures, okay? Because that's what it is. It is a complete failure of human perception, all right? All it takes is a few sketches that are cleverly done. Your brain can't figure it out, all right? So, we are poor data-taking devices. That's why we have such a thing as science, because we have machines that don't care what side of the bed they woke up in the morning, don't care what they said to their spouse that day, doesn't care whether they had their morning caffeine. They'll get the data right, okay?
So far, it's the same message. You can't trust your senses and you're dumb. Only this time he adds, machines are better than you. He talks about artistic sketches that confuse perception. Well, humans created those sketches. He says, we are poor data-taking devices. Okay, who talks like that? Tell me who. Humans learn. We don't take data, Neil. If you really listen to this guy, he's not even well-spoken. He says, that's why we have such a thing as science, because we have machines. Did you see any logical transition between science and machine? I'm going to repeat that.
That's why we have such a thing as science, because we have machines.
This guy is a moron. As if science was this omnipotent godlike thing that willed computers and machines into existence. Humans made machines and computers, Neil. Humans use computers. Humans enter the data, hence the term data entry. Without humans existing to use computers, there would be no need for computers. If you can't see that Neil is projecting his own shortcomings on us, I really can't help you. He's projecting his lack of imagination, his lack of artistry, his lack of creativity. He's worthless, so he projects that on us. I enjoy artistic, perception manipulative sketches. I know how to draw, build, and design. So don't project that garbage on me or anybody but yourself, Neil. You can't remove the humanity from the inventions humanity created. And that's what he's so ignorantly trying to do in this idiotic monologue of his. And the crowd goes wild. Let's painfully take a look at another example of his stupidity. Everybody's heard him talk about Earth being pear-shaped. So I'm going to skip that and listen to something just as dumb, if not a million times more stupid, but highly overlooked by most content creators. Let's take a look at what he says after the pear comment. This is Neil pretending to be a truther. Enlighten us, Neil.
Okay, question number two.
But you got to know, let me just so you understand. We've been fed a lie our entire, I want to call it a lie. We've been fed.
It's a point of view thing, I think.
Earth has been misrepresented to us by geologists because the globes that you buy, that you rub your fingers over and you feel the Himalayas and you feel the Rocky Mountains. No, okay? These mountains are puny compared to the size of the Earth. You would not know they were there. If you were truly that size, some big cosmic giant lumbering through space, coming upon the Earth, rubbing your hand on it, the depth of your, what do you call these?
Your finger.
The fingerprint mark.
Mark.
The depth of that would be greater than the entire range of distance from the Marianas Trench in the bottom of the Pacific to the top of Mount Everest. Therefore, you would close your eyes, rub your finger, you would not know whether you are on ocean, valley, mountain, or hill.
Well, it might be wet or dry. It might be,
Well,
wet.
by how much wet?
A little.
How? No.
Yes.
You wouldn't even notice it. You're not going to say, oh, I got to dry my hand. The depth of the ocean doesn't measure up to the depth of your fingerprint. That's my point. So we've been fed this misrepresentation of our own planet on the belief that, in fact, we have real surface features. But cosmically speaking, we're practically a perfect sphere.
So, according to Neil, we've been lied to because if there was an imaginary giant floating in space who decided to molest the Earth with his fingers, would be too big to tell the difference between underwater mountains and ground-based mountains. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, are you
Fucking
kidding me? How the
fuck.
does this baboon's ass get away with it? This guy is supposed to represent America's best and brightest. No wonder we're the laughingstock of the world. They give this dumb shit a platform to spit garbage while we suffer in silence. And everybody's obsessed with the pear-shaped comment? The pear comment? Really? On that note, I want to explain why I called him Cosby at the start of the show. They both have been accused of rape. Only difference is, I believe Cosby was set up, and Neil is actually a rapist. Here's why. I'm gonna try and kill two birds with one stone. It's fine if you disagree, it's just speculation at this point anyway. Leave a comment, and if you're respectful, I'll most likely reply, if I have time. No zillionaire has to rape anyone. I'm talking about a young, good-looking Cosby with a silver tongue. 30 years after the fact, 20 washed-up women, or more than that, I can't keep count at this point, come forward, all at the same time, relatively speaking, talking about being drugged and then raped. Okay, let's set the scene. Hollywood, late 70s, 80s. These people were most likely drugging themselves. Okay, this is Hollywood. Let's be real. I'm not trying to be insensitive to women. That's not my intent. But it's gold-digging women like that that destroy the credibility of real victims. Women who are truly victims. I would never defend rape. If I had it my way, I would cut off the member of every rapist that ever lived. I would probably do far worse than that as well. As far as Bill Cosby goes, I'm not buying it. His accusers were most likely paid off by the owners of Hollywood, the satanic ruling elite. America's dad now becomes America's serial rapist. A character assassination if I ever saw one, and right before he meets his maker with little to no time to salvage his reputation. There's no coming back from this. Now, let's take a look at Neil's case. Before I give you my 2 cents, let me read an article from the Daily Wire to you. A woman who attended school with Neil deGrasse Tyson says the now famous astrophysicist drugged and raped her at the University of Texas back in 1984. Shia Ahmet tweeted her allegations as part of the Me Too campaign, a social media-based effort to help women reveal incidents of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and rape in their past. Ahmet made the same claims in 2014 and again in 2016, and resurfaced a blog from 2014 as part of the effort in the post. Ahmet claims Tyson slipped her a Mickey, a slang term for the date rape drug GHB. and then took her back to a room where he had sexual intercourse with her against her will. The essay, written as an open letter to Tyson, asked the scientist what he would say to his family and hers given his past impropriety. What would you say to my parents if I had told them what had happened, that you had slipped me a Mickey and that you raped me while I was unconscious? What would you say to them now if they were still alive? What will you say to your wife, the woman that was on the phone as you handed me the water to drink in a cup made out of a coconut shell? Do you have any idea how your act of violence affected my life, the life of my parents, my ex-husband, my daughters, and anyone and everyone that has anything to do with me? Tyson hasn't commented on the allegations, though it appears that some in the media were asking him for a response as far back as last year. Ahmet says that when she confronted Tyson, he was totally confused and said nothing. David McAfee, an outspoken atheist and author and fan of Tyson, has been trying to get Tyson to answer the allegations ostensibly to clear his name, but so far Tyson has refused to comment. McAfee has been chronicling the incident at Pathos, having followed the story for some time and confirming that Ahmet and Tyson were classmates. Typically, Tyson's silence might just be taken as a refusal to acknowledge unsupported allegations. After all, these same allegations have surfaced several times, and the media seems to have avoided the story. But given the recent outpouring of support for victims of sexual violence and the shocking allegations that have poured forth against people like Harvey Weinstein, Tyson may not get the same free pass this time as he has when the accusations surfaced previously. So, according to this article, the victim and Tyson did go to school together. Tyson had not yet become rich or famous, probably still climbing the ranks of his lodge, but I have to confess I couldn't find any info about his Masonic background. Regardless, Tyson was a spoiled rich kid, judging by what his parents did for a living, but that's besides the point. He didn't have Cosby money. At the time of Tyson's situation, 1984, Cosby was already a superstar. Tyson was still lurking in the shadows, and let's be real, without celebrity status, getting lucky is a challenge. I've had spoiled rich friends when I was younger, and believe me, they had to work just as hard as the next man. So, in summary, Tyson was a dweeb in a jock's body, an obnoxious know-it-all, judging by his persona today. Women probably didn't give him the time of day. So, pretty much the opposite of Cosby. Cosby, on the other hand, was a smooth-talking gatekeeper into show business. Women threw themselves at him willfully. Let's compare. Cosby has over 30 women come forward many years after the fact. Tyson only one, which to me sounds way more believable. Tyson was and still is a condescending, awkward dweeb. I could picture him like a Steve Urkel on steroids.
Have a glass of water, my pretty.
I just want to end by saying I don't really know, but Neil as a rapist in 1984 is definitely more believable than zillionaire superstar Cosby. And for those of you that will say I'm tarnishing this man's reputation with no proof, I agree. I have no proof, but ask yourself, why is this woman making this claim? Why is he not defending himself? Why isn't the lamestream media all over this? I can answer the last question. As long as Neil continues to convince people of how inferior they are, as long as he propagates his pseudoscience, he will be protected. Step out of line like Cosby, you'll get your only son murdered on the side of the road not too many people know about, and it's Cosby, taken out by a Russian immigrant who flew in the same week if not the same day. They called it a robbery. Nothing was stolen. You can't have your own television network and portray black people as normal human beings, Mr. Cosby, and you can't bash Donald Trump before he's in the White House. Both his son and his legacy murdered. Tyson, on the other hand, is untouchable. Any high-status celebrity that thinks he or she can take blood money and try to do good with it, or change the very system that provided the satanic blood money to begin with, will learn the Cosby lesson. For all the minds Tyson has corrupted, fuck his reputation. Till next time.
Do I believe in UFOs or extraterrestrial visitors? I'm not authorized to answer that question. Where shall I begin? UFO.
other cases, I do believe it's someone who's trying to gain your trust by saying, hey, I'm with you, I don't trust these guys either, but then continues to try and pollute your mind with NASA propaganda. The old shit sandwich with truth bread routine. I always boil things down to first principles. If you know someone to be a pathological liar and that person continues to tell you stories that you couldn't ever verify for yourself, why would you believe anything this person ever says? We don't go into outer space. We simply don't. Satellites are a work of fiction by Arthur C. Clarke.
Well, if you don't know what it is, that's where your conversation should stop.
So, me and Neil, the rapist Tyson, finally agree on something. If you don't know what it is, that's where the conversation should stop. So maybe he should take his own advice and stop talking about dark matter and gravity. Textbook hypocrite. I'll get back to Cosby later. There's some dudes out there in YouTube land that, in the same breath, call NASA the deceivers and then continue to propagate their lies. I don't know if it's deliberate in all cases. In some cases, I believe it's simply a person who's partially awakened. In others, use undersea cables, also known as the World Wide Web. We use repeater towers to propagate Wi-Fi and cellular signals. Anything extra comes from balloons, blimps, and drones. I don't care if I lose subscribers from this rant. I'm here to tell the truth. And if you want more of it, send me money so I can quit my slave job. Otherwise, you get it when you get it. I recommend you don't wait for me and my crew. Me and the team are going to work through the holiday season to get more truth out. Hopefully, we don't have to neglect our families too much. But when we get days off, we got to take advantage. I got to change the oil.
First, remember what the U stands for in UFO. Now, there's a fascinating frailty of the human mind that psychologists know all about. And it's called argument from ignorance. And this is how it goes. You ready? Somebody sees lights flashing in the sky. They've never seen it before. They don't understand what it is. They say, a UFO. The U stands for unidentified. So they say, I don't know what it is. It must be aliens from outer space visiting from another planet.